Breaking the Comfort Zone: How to Embrace Change and Grow. Written by Ronnie Rowland. Published by Growth Literacy Lounge. There comes a moment in life when you realize you've been playing small. You wake up, go through the same routine, face the same challenges, and dream about the life you could be living, if only you had the courage to take that first step. You tell yourself you'll change someday, when the timing is better, when you feel more confident, when life is less chaotic. But deep down you know the truth. That someday never comes. The reason? Your comfort zone. It's invisible, but it controls everything. It shapes your choices, limits your risks, and keeps you trapped in a loop of predictability. It whispers, stay where it's safe, don't rock the boat, avoid the unknown, and for a while that voice feels like protection, but eventually it starts to feel like a cage, because no matter how comfortable you are, you can't shake the feeling that you're capable of more. We all have a choice. We can live inside that cage, settling for a life that feels fine but never extraordinary. Or we can break out, step into the unknown, and experience what we are truly capable of. Growth doesn't happen in safety. It happens when we stretch, when we struggle, when we dare to do the things that scare us. It happens when we stop waiting for the right moment and start creating it. This book is your guide to doing just that. Not through unrealistic leaps or reckless decisions, but through simple, actionable steps that will help you expand your comfort zone every single day. You don't need to become fearless. You don't need to be ready. You just need to take the first step. By the time you finish this book, you won't just understand why growth happens outside your comfort zone, you will have experienced it. You will have challenged yourself, faced fears, and taken real action. And once you do, you'll never look at life the same way again. Because once you know what you're capable of, there's no going back. The only question is, are you ready to begin? Chapter 1. The Illusion of Safety. We all crave comfort. It's human nature to seek safety, predictability, and stability. The comfort zone feels like a protective shield, keeping us safe from failure, rejection, or embarrassment. It's familiar. It's warm. But here's the truth. The comfort zone is a prison disguised as security. Imagine this. You're standing at the edge of a swimming pool. The sun is shining and you know the water will feel amazing once you're in. But there's hesitation. The water is cold. You'll shiver at first. Your mind starts making excuses. Maybe later, maybe never, but the moment you jump, something shifts. The cold isn't as bad as you expected. Your body adjusts. Before you know it, you're swimming effortlessly. The fear you felt was nothing compared to the freedom you gained. This is the comfort zone in action. It tricks you into believing that staying put is better than taking a risk. It whispers, stay where it's safe. It convinces you that the unknown is dangerous. But the unknown is where everything you want exists. Growth, opportunity, transformation, it all lies outside of that invisible fence. And if you never push past it, you'll never know what you're truly capable of. Look at anyone who has achieved success: athletes, entrepreneurs, artists, leaders. They didn't get there by staying comfortable. They pushed, they risked, they failed, and they kept going. The difference between those who grow and those who don't is simple. Some people choose to break free, while others let fear keep them trapped. Think back to a time when you avoided something uncomfortable. Maybe you passed on an opportunity. Maybe you held back from speaking up. Maybe you convinced yourself that you weren't ready. Now ask yourself, did playing it safe actually help? Or did it just keep you in the same place, wishing you had been braver? Our brains are wired to avoid pain. It's a survival instinct. Thousands of years ago, humans needed to stay within the tribe for safety. Straying too far could mean danger. But today, that same instinct holds us back in ways that no longer serve us. The fear of stepping out feels real, but in most cases, the danger isn't. You won't get eaten by a lion if you take a risk at work. You won't be exiled if you try something new. The worst that can happen? You fail, you learn, and you try again. Here's a simple truth. Your comfort zone will shrink if you don't challenge it. Every time you choose safety over growth, the walls close in a little more. The opportunities you ignore today will be the regrets you carry tomorrow. On the flip side, every time you push past fear, the world expands. Your confidence builds. You start seeing challenges as possibilities instead of threats. Breaking the comfort zone doesn't mean reckless leaps. It means intentional steps. It means making a decision, however small, to challenge yourself daily. It's not about eliminating fear, it's about acting despite it. It's about recognizing that the feeling of discomfort is a signal that you're on the right track. Think of a rubber band. If you never stretch it, it stays stiff and rigid. But when you pull it, it expands. It becomes flexible. It grows. That's exactly how personal growth works. The more you stretch yourself, the more adaptable, resilient, and capable you become. Right now, your comfort zone is keeping you exactly where you are. If that's where you want to stay, that's fine. But if you want more confidence, more experiences, more success, it's time to step forward. The fear will still be there. It always is. But fear is not a wall, it's a doorway. And on the other side, that's where life begins. Your challenge is simple. Identify one thing in your life where you've been choosing comfort over growth. It doesn't have to be big. Maybe it's a conversation you've been avoiding, a goal you keep postponing, a decision you've been putting off. Whatever it is, take one step toward it today. Not tomorrow, not next week, today. Because the truth is, staying safe won't make you happy. Growth will. And the moment you decide to break free, everything changes. Chapter 2. Fear is a compass, not a stop sign. Fear is often misunderstood. We see it as a warning, a signal to stop, a force that tells us to turn back. But what if fear isn't the enemy? What if it's a guide? What if instead of avoiding it, we learn to follow it? The most successful people in the world don't live without fear. They simply refuse to let it dictate their choices. Think about the first time you tried something new. Maybe it was speaking in public, starting a business, or approaching someone you admired. Your heart pounded. Your mind raced with worst-case scenarios. You felt that deep discomfort, the one that tempts you to back down. But then, if you pushed through, something incredible happened. The fear lost its power. The experience wasn't as terrifying as you thought. You walked away stronger. That's the moment you realize fear is just an illusion, one that shrinks the second you step through it. Fear is not a stop sign. It's a compass. It points directly at the things that will help you grow. If something scares you, it usually means it matters. It means there's something valuable on the other side. But most people never reach it because they turn away the moment fear shows up. They let their emotions control their actions, instead of using their actions to reshape their emotions. They assume they need to feel brave before they take action. But the truth is, action comes first. Courage follows. Look at any great leader, entrepreneur, or athlete. None of them started fearless. They started scared, unsure, and full of doubt. The difference? They moved forward anyway. They felt the fear, acknowledged it, and then acted in spite of it. That's how confidence is built. Not by waiting for fear to disappear, but by proving to yourself that you can handle it. The problem is, most of us were never taught how to handle fear. We were taught to avoid it. We were told to play it safe, to choose security over risk, to stick to what we know. But that mindset is a trap. It keeps you stagnant. It keeps you small. And worst of all, it convinces you that fear is something to be escaped, instead of something to be embraced. Think about children. They don't fear growth the way adults do. They fall when they learn to walk. They mess up when they learn to speak. They try, fail, and try again without hesitation. But over time, society conditions us to fear failure, to fear judgment, to fear the unknown. And slowly, without realizing it, we start building walls around ourselves, walls that keep us comfortable, but also keep us stuck. What if we unlearned that fear? What if, instead of seeing it as something to avoid, we saw it as a necessary part of success? What if every time we felt afraid, we took it as a sign to move forward instead of retreat? The shift is simple, but powerful. Instead of saying, "I'm scared, so I won't do it," we say, "I'm scared, so I must do it." That one change in thinking rewires everything. It's not about eliminating fear. That's impossible. Fear is part of being human. It's about changing your relationship with it. It's about recognizing that fear and growth go hand in hand. The more something scares you, the more potential it holds. The more resistance you feel, the more rewarding it will be once you push through. So here's your challenge. Think of something you've been avoiding because of fear. A conversation, a project, a risk. Whatever it is, commit to taking one small action toward it today. Not tomorrow, not next week, today. Because the truth is, fear only controls you if you let it. But the moment you take action, you take your power back. and once you do, fear stops being an obstacle. It becomes a sign that you're on the right path. Chapter 3. Rewiring your brain for growth. Your brain is an incredible machine, but it wasn't designed for growth, it was designed for survival. It prioritizes safety, predictability, and efficiency. That's why stepping outside your comfort zone feels so unnatural. It's not because you're weak, lazy, or incapable. It's because your brain is doing its job, keeping you in familiar territory, where the risk of failure or embarrassment is low. But here's the catch: growth only happens in uncertainty. The life you want, the skills you desire, the confidence you crave, it's all just beyond what feels comfortable. If you can train your brain to embrace discomfort instead of resisting it, everything changes. Think about when you exercise. The first time you lift a heavy weight, your muscles struggle. It feels unnatural, even painful. Your body wants to quit. But if you push through, something amazing happens. Your muscles adapt. They grow stronger. The same is true for your mind. When you challenge it with new experiences, it resists at first. Fear kicks in, doubt creeps up. But if you keep going, your brain adapts. It starts seeing discomfort not as a threat, but as proof that you're improving. The key is repetition. The more often you step outside your comfort zone, the more normal it becomes. What once felt terrifying eventually feels routine. That's why people who constantly challenge themselves, entrepreneurs, athletes, public speakers, seem fearless. They're not. They've just conditioned their minds to handle discomfort without flinching. It's not a talent, it's a skill, and like any skill, it can be developed. This is backed by science. The brain has something called neuroplasticity, which means it physically rewires itself based on experience. When you avoid challenges, you reinforce the neural pathways that associate discomfort with danger. But when you face challenges, you create new pathways that associate discomfort with growth. Over time, these pathways become stronger, and what once seemed impossible becomes second nature. The problem is, most people never make it past the resistance phase. They try something new, feel uncomfortable, and assume that means they're not ready. But that discomfort isn't a stop sign, it's a sign of change. The difference between those who grow and those who stay the same is simple. Those who grow push through discomfort long enough for their brains to adapt. The best way to start rewiring your brain is through small, controlled discomfort. If you've never spoken in front of a crowd, don't start by giving a keynote speech, start by sharing your opinion in a meeting. If you want to get better at socializing, don't force yourself into a big networking event. Start by making small talk with a stranger. These small steps train your brain to handle discomfort without overwhelming it. Think of it like stretching a rubber band. If you pull it too hard, it snaps. But if you stretch it gradually, it expands without breaking. That's exactly how your brain works. Small, consistent exposure to discomfort builds resilience. And once your brain gets used to handling discomfort, you'll start to crave challenges instead of fearing them. Now, ask yourself, what's one thing you've been avoiding because it feels uncomfortable? Maybe it's speaking up, trying something new, or taking a risk. Whatever it is, make a commitment to do it today. Not perfectly, not fearlessly, just intentionally. Because every time you challenge yourself, you're not just proving something to the world, you're rewiring your brain to handle bigger and bigger challenges. And once you train your mind to embrace growth, there's no limit to what you can do. Chapter 4. The Power of Micro Shifts. Most people think breaking out of their comfort zone requires a massive leap. They imagine quitting their job overnight, moving to a new city, or making some grand, dramatic change. But that's not how real growth works. The truth is, small, consistent steps, what we call micro shifts, are far more powerful than one-time, high-risk decisions. The brain resists big, sudden changes, but it adapts well to small, gradual shifts. If you want to create lasting change, the key is to start small and build momentum over time. Think about how a plane adjusts its course. If a pilot changes direction by just a few degrees, the destination completely shifts. A tiny adjustment, maintained over time, leads to a drastically different outcome. That's exactly how micro shifts work in personal growth. A small change in your habits, mindset, or actions today can completely reshape your future. The problem is, most people overlook these small steps because they seem insignificant. They think, what difference does one tiny change make? The answer, more than you can imagine. Consider confidence. Many people believe confidence is something you either have or don't. But confidence isn't a personality trait, it's a skill built through action. Instead of trying to become a confident person overnight, start with micro shifts. If you're afraid of speaking up in meetings, don't force yourself to lead a presentation. Start by sharing one small idea. If social situations make you nervous, don't pressure yourself to be the life of the party. Just start a short conversation with one person. These small actions train your brain to handle discomfort without overwhelming it. The same principle applies to discipline. If you want to develop a new habit, start with the absolute smallest version of it. Want to start reading? Read 1 page a day. Want to exercise? Do 5 push-ups. Want to wake up earlier? Set your alarm 5 minutes earlier. These micro shifts seem almost too easy, but that's the point. They remove resistance. Once a habit becomes automatic, you can gradually increase the difficulty. The hardest part of change isn't doing the work, it's starting. Micro shifts make starting easy. This concept is backed by science. Research on habit formation shows that small, consistent actions are far more sustainable than big, drastic changes. When something feels manageable, you're more likely to stick with it. And when you stick with it, the results compound over time. Imagine improving by just 1% every day. That doesn't sound like much, but over the course of a year, you'd be 37 times better than when you started. That's the power of micro shifts. The problem is, most people give up too soon. They expect instant results, and when they don't see progress, they quit. But growth isn't always visible at first. Think of bamboo. For years, it grows underground, invisible to the eye. Then, seemingly overnight, it shoots up several feet. That's how personal growth works. Micro shifts create deep, unseen change before the results become obvious. If you stay consistent, the breakthrough will come. So how do you apply this? Start by choosing one small change you can make today. It doesn't have to be big. It just has to be intentional. Maybe it's sending an email you've been avoiding, making eye contact with a stranger, or saying yes to a new opportunity. The goal isn't perfection, it's progress. Each time you take a small step, you weaken the grip of your comfort zone. Each micro shift makes the next one easier, and before you know it, those tiny steps add up to something massive. Growth doesn't require a leap. It just requires a single step. Take it. Chapter 5. Redefining failure because it's not what you think. Failure has been given the wrong meaning. Most people see it as something negative, something to be ashamed of, something that proves they weren't good enough. But that definition is flawed. Failure is not the opposite of success, it's part of the process. Every person who has ever achieved anything worthwhile has failed, not once but repeatedly. The difference is, they didn't let failure stop them. They used it as fuel. Think about a baby learning to walk. They don't take one step, fall, and decide, maybe walking isn't for me. They fall over and over again, but they don't see it as failure. They see it as part of learning. They get back up and keep trying until one day, walking is second nature. That's how all growth works. Somewhere along the way, though, we learn to fear failure. We attach meaning to it. We take it personally. We let it define us. But what if we saw failure the way a child does, not as defeat, but as progress? The most successful people in the world embrace failure because they understand that every setback contains valuable data. When you fail, you learn what doesn't work. You gain insight. You build resilience. You grow stronger. The only real failure is avoiding challenges altogether. Playing it safe might protect you from discomfort, but it also guarantees that you never improve. Growth requires risk, and risk comes with occasional failure. There is no way around it. Look at anyone who has achieved greatness. Thomas Edison failed thousands of times before inventing the light bulb. Oprah Winfrey was fired from her first television job. Michael Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team. These stories aren't exceptions, they are the rule. The only way to succeed is to keep going despite failure. The people who make it aren't the ones who never fail, they are the ones who refuse to let failure stop them. The key is to redefine what failure means. Instead of seeing it as proof that you're not good enough, see it as a sign that you're stretching beyond your limits. Instead of saying, "I failed," say, "I learned." Instead of feeling discouraged, get curious. Ask yourself, what did this teach me? How can I adjust? What can I do differently next time? The moment you shift your mindset, failure loses its power over you. Most people fear failure because they believe it reflects their worth. But failure is not a reflection of who you are, it's a reflection of your effort, and effort can always be improved. If you failed, it means you tried. That alone is something to be proud of. The real failure is never trying at all. The biggest regrets people have at the end of their lives are not the things they tried and failed at, but the things they were too afraid to attempt. To break free from this fear, start failing on purpose. Take small risks. Challenge yourself to step into situations where failure is possible. Apply for the job you don't feel qualified for. Speak up in the meeting. Try something new. Every time you do, you weaken failure's grip on you. You prove to yourself that failure isn't fatal, it's just feedback. Right now, think about something you've been avoiding because you're afraid to fail. What if you reframed it? What if instead of fearing the worst, you saw it as an opportunity to grow? What if, no matter what happens, you choose to see it as a win? The moment you stop letting failure control you, your entire world opens up. Because once failure stops being an ending, success becomes inevitable. Chapter 6. Who you surround yourself with matters. You are a reflection of the people you spend the most time with. Whether you realize it or not, the attitudes, beliefs, and habits of those around you shape your own. If you surround yourself with people who play it safe, avoid risk, and stay within their comfort zones, you will naturally do the same. But if you choose to be around those who push themselves, take action, and embrace growth, their mindset will start to influence yours. Think about the last time you were around someone truly motivated. Maybe they had big goals, a strong work ethic, or an unstoppable drive. Just being in their presence made you feel inspired. You started thinking bigger, feeling more capable, and believing in what's possible. Now compare that to a time when you were surrounded by negativity. Maybe the people around you complained, made excuses, or doubted every possibility. That energy likely pulled you down, making it harder to stay motivated. This isn't coincidence, it's human nature. We unconsciously mirror the behaviors and mindsets of those around us. Studies in psychology have shown that we are deeply influenced by our social environment. If your friends are risk-averse, you will be too. If your colleagues constantly criticize new ideas, you'll hesitate to share yours. If your family discourages personal growth, you may second-guess your ambitions. This is why it's so important to be intentional about who you allow into your inner circle. The people around you can either push you forward or hold you back. This doesn't mean cutting people out of your life entirely. It means being conscious of the role they play. Some relationships are unavoidable, like family members or coworkers, but you can control how much influence they have over you. If someone is constantly negative, limit your exposure to their mindset. Seek out people who challenge and uplift you. If you don't have that kind of environment yet, create it. Join communities of like-minded individuals. Read books by people who inspire you. Listen to podcasts that expand your thinking. You can surround yourself with growth-oriented people, even if they aren't physically present. Think about elite athletes. They train with the best coaches, compete against stronger opponents, and constantly challenge themselves. They don't stay in circles where mediocrity is accepted. They deliberately place themselves in environments that demand their best. That's what you need to do for your personal growth. If you want to break free from your comfort zone, surround yourself with people who live outside of theirs. One of the simplest ways to elevate your environment is to identify someone who embodies the mindset you want. It could be a mentor, a colleague, or even a public figure you admire. Observe how they think, act, and approach challenges. How do they handle fear? How do they push through obstacles? Model their behavior. The more you immerse yourself in their mindset, the more it becomes part of you. You don't have to overhaul your entire social circle overnight. Start by making small shifts. Have deeper conversations with people who inspire you. Distance yourself from constant negativity. Choose to spend time with those who challenge you to be better. If you don't have those people yet, seek them out. Growth happens when you place yourself in an environment that expects it. Now, ask yourself, who are the 5 people you spend the most time with? Are they helping you grow, or are they keeping you stuck? If the answer isn't clear, it's time to be more intentional about your environment, because the truth is, success isn't just about what you do, it's about who you do it with. And when you choose to surround yourself with growth, everything else falls into place. Chapter 7. Why you'll never feel ready and why that's okay. Most people wait for the perfect moment. They tell themselves they'll take action when they feel more confident, when they have more experience, or when the timing is just right. But that moment never comes. The truth is, you will never feel fully ready. No one does. And if you wait for certainty, you'll stay exactly where you are. Think about any big moment in your life. Maybe it was your first day at a new job, a difficult conversation you needed to have, or a challenge you had to face. You didn't feel ready, but you did it anyway. And once you got through it, you realized that the fear was worse than the reality. That's because readiness is not a prerequisite for action, it's a result of action. You don't feel confident before you start. You gain confidence by starting. Every successful person you admire started before they felt ready. Entrepreneurs launch businesses with uncertainty. Athletes step onto the field full of nerves. Performers go on stage despite self-doubt. They don't succeed because they were ready, they succeed because they acted anyway. If they had waited for the perfect time, they never would have started. The difference between those who grow and those who stay stuck is simple: action. Your brain is wired to protect you from the unknown. It sends signals of doubt, hesitation, and fear whenever you face something unfamiliar. But those feelings are not signs that you should stop. They are signs that you are on the edge of growth. If you recognize that fear and doubt are natural, you can learn to push through them instead of waiting for them to disappear. Most people misunderstand confidence. They think it's something you need before you can take action. But confidence is not a cause, it's an effect. You don't wake up one day feeling ready. You build confidence by repeatedly stepping into discomfort, proving to yourself that you can handle it. Each small success rewires your brain to see challenges differently. Over time, what once felt impossible becomes routine. Think about riding a bike. The first time, you were probably terrified. You wobbled, you fell, and you doubted yourself. But you kept trying, and with each attempt you got better. Now, you don't even think about it. The same applies to every new challenge. The only difference between where you are now and where you want to be is the number of times you've done it. The only way to get past the fear is to start. The myth of readiness keeps people trapped in inaction. It convinces them that they need to learn more, prepare more, or wait for a sign. But no amount of preparation will ever eliminate uncertainty. The best way to prepare is to begin. You will learn more in a week of real action than in a year of overthinking. The experience itself is what makes you ready. The good news is, you don't have to take a huge leap, you just have to take one step. Make the phone call, send the email, start the project, speak up in the meeting. Each small action builds momentum, and momentum creates progress. The moment you stop waiting for readiness and start taking action, everything changes. Right now, think about something you've been delaying because you don't feel ready. What would happen if you did it anyway? What if, instead of waiting for confidence, you let confidence come from action? The only way to move forward is to start before you're ready, and once you do, you'll wonder why you ever waited in the first place. Chapter 8. The Power of Momentum. Success isn't about big, dramatic efforts. It's about small, consistent actions repeated over time. Momentum is what turns small steps into massive results. The problem is, most people never build momentum because they stop too soon. They take one or two steps outside their comfort zone, feel uncomfortable, and retreat back to safety. But those who push past the discomfort find something powerful. The more you act, the easier it gets. Think of a train at a standstill. It takes enormous energy to get it moving, but once it gains momentum, it becomes nearly unstoppable. That's how personal growth works. The first step feels the hardest. Your mind resists. Fear kicks in, but once you take action, you prove to yourself that you can handle discomfort. And with each step forward, the resistance weakens. What once felt impossible starts to feel normal. The key is to keep going long enough for momentum to take over. Most people quit before they see progress. They expect immediate results, and when they don't see them, they assume they've failed. But real change happens beneath the surface before it becomes visible. Think about an ice cube sitting in a cold room. At first, nothing happens. You raise the temperature from 25 to 26 degrees. Still nothing. 27, 28, 29, no change. Then, at 32 degrees, the ice begins to melt. The breakthrough wasn't caused by just 1 degree. It was the result of all the previous changes adding up. Growth works the same way. If you stop too soon, you never reach the breakthrough. One of the biggest momentum killers is inconsistency. You push yourself for a few days, then stop. You take action when you feel motivated, but when motivation fades, you lose steam. The problem is, motivation is unreliable. It's an emotion, and emotions fluctuate. If you depend on motivation to take action, you'll always struggle with momentum. The solution is to rely on systems, not feelings. Build habits that keep you moving forward, regardless of how you feel in the moment. The best way to maintain momentum is to eliminate the option of quitting. When something is non-negotiable, you find a way to do it. That's why some of the most successful people have strict routines. They don't leave things to chance. They don't wait until they feel like it. They commit to consistent action, no matter what. It's not about perfection, it's about progress. Momentum is built through repetition. Each small action reinforces the belief that you are someone who takes action. Every day you push forward, you make it easier to keep going. And the longer you maintain momentum, the harder it is to stop. That's why successful people seem to have unstoppable drive. It's not because they're naturally more disciplined, it's because they've built so much momentum that stopping would feel harder than continuing. Think of a rocket launching into space. The first few minutes require massive amounts of energy, but once it breaks through the atmosphere, it enters a state of momentum where it moves effortlessly. That's the level you want to reach with your growth. At first, pushing outside your comfort zone will feel difficult. But if you stay consistent, you'll reach a point where taking action feels natural. The key is to get past the early resistance. Right now, think about where you've started and stopped in the past. What if, instead of giving up, you had kept going? What if you had built just a little more momentum? The good news is, it's never too late to start again. All it takes is one step, then another. Then another. Keep moving, even when it feels slow. Keep pushing, even when progress isn't obvious. Because once momentum kicks in, growth becomes unstoppable. Chapter 9. Handling setbacks without losing progress. Setbacks are inevitable. No matter how much effort you put in, no matter how motivated you feel, there will be moments when things don't go as planned. You'll take a risk and fail. You'll commit to progress and then fall back into old habits. You'll build momentum, only to have life throw unexpected challenges your way. This is where most people give up. They see setbacks as proof that they aren't capable, that they've failed, that they should stop trying. But setbacks are not the end of progress, they are part of it. Think about a GPS. When you take a wrong turn, it doesn't shut down and say, well, that's it, we're lost forever. It simply recalculates and gives you a new route. The destination hasn't changed, and neither has your ability to reach it. That's exactly how you need to treat setbacks. Instead of seeing them as failures, see them as course corrections. A setback doesn't mean you're off track, it means you need to adjust. One of the biggest mistakes people make is letting a single setback spiral into a complete stop. They break a habit one day and decide they've failed entirely. They miss one opportunity and convince themselves they aren't good enough. But one bad moment does not define your journey. The only way to truly fail is to quit. As long as you keep going, you're still in the game. The key to bouncing back quickly is shifting your mindset. Instead of dwelling on what went wrong, focus on what you can learn. Every setback contains valuable information. Maybe you pushed too hard, too fast. Maybe you didn't prepare enough. Maybe you let fear take over. Whatever the reason, there's a lesson in it. If you take the time to analyze the setback, you'll come back stronger. Another common mistake is expecting progress to be a straight line. People assume that once they start making changes, they'll just keep improving without interruption. But real growth looks more like a series of ups and downs. Some days you'll feel unstoppable. Other days you'll feel stuck. The important thing is to keep moving forward, even when it feels slow. Progress is not about perfection, it's about persistence. Think about an athlete training for a marathon. There will be days when they run faster than ever and days when they struggle to finish. There will be injuries, exhaustion, and moments of doubt. But none of that means they should quit. They recover, adjust, and keep training. Your journey is no different. A difficult day doesn't erase all the work you've done. It's just a temporary obstacle. One of the best ways to handle setbacks is to have a plan for when they happen. Instead of hoping everything will go perfectly, expect challenges and decide in advance how you'll respond. Will you take a short break and then get back on track? Will you seek guidance from a mentor? Will you remind yourself of your bigger goal? Having a strategy makes it easier to bounce back quickly. It's also important to focus on what you've already accomplished. When setbacks happen, people tend to forget all their previous wins. They only see what's going wrong. But progress doesn't disappear just because you hit a rough patch. Take a moment to look back at how far you've come. Remind yourself of the challenges you've already overcome. If you've made progress once, you can do it again. Right now, think about a time you let a setback stop you. What would have happened if you had kept going? What if, instead of quitting, you had simply adjusted your approach? The next time you face a setback, don't see it as a failure. See it as part of the process. Regain your focus, make the necessary changes, and move forward. Because the only way to lose is to stop trying. Chapter 10. Becoming the type of person who embraces growth. Breaking out of your comfort zone isn't just about taking action, it's about shifting your identity. People often focus on what they need to do, but lasting change comes from deciding who you want to be. The goal is not just to step outside your comfort zone once or twice. It's to become the kind of person who consistently seeks growth, embraces challenges, and thrives in discomfort. When you make that shift, growth stops feeling like an occasional effort and starts feeling like a natural part of who you are. Think about people who always seem to push themselves. They take risks. They try new things. They aren't afraid of failure. It's not that they were born that way. It's that they see themselves as people who embrace growth. That identity influences everything they do. And the good news is, identity is not fixed. You can choose to redefine yourself at any moment. If you see yourself as someone who avoids risk, changes feel forced. But when you shift your mindset to I am someone who grows, pushing boundaries becomes automatic. Your brain loves consistency. It wants your actions to match your identity. That's why people struggle with change. If you see yourself as someone who plays it safe, every risk will feel unnatural. But when you adopt the identity of someone who embraces growth, your brain will work to align your actions with that belief. It's not about forcing yourself to do hard things, it's about making those things feel like part of who you are. The easiest way to shift identity is through small wins. Every time you take action, you reinforce the belief that you are someone who grows. If you hesitate to speak up but push through, you are proving to yourself that you are confident. If you take a small risk, you are reinforcing the idea that you are someone who takes action. Each small decision builds your new identity, just like each workout builds muscle. You don't change by thinking differently, you change by acting differently. Think about the language you use. Many people limit themselves with their words. They say, I'm not a risk taker, or I'm bad at handling change. But those are just stories, they aren't facts. The more you repeat them, the more you believe them. The key is to start telling a different story. Instead of saying, I'm afraid of failure, say, I learn from every challenge. Instead of saying, I don't like uncertainty, say, I get stronger every time I step into the unknown. Your words shape your thoughts and your thoughts shape your reality. Your environment also plays a huge role. If you spend time with people who avoid growth, it reinforces the belief that staying safe is normal. But if you surround yourself with people who challenge themselves, you start to see growth as the standard. The fastest way to shift identity is to put yourself in environments where growth is expected. That could mean joining a mastermind group, working with a mentor, or even just consuming content that inspires you. The final piece is to recognize that growth is a process, not a destination. There is no point where you arrive and never have to push yourself again. The goal is to develop a mindset where you are always expanding. The most successful people in the world are still learning, still failing, still growing. They don't stop because growth has become part of who they are. Right now, make a decision. Decide to be the kind of person who embraces growth. Start small. Take one action today that reinforces that identity. Speak up when you'd normally stay silent. Try something new without overthinking. Say yes to an opportunity that scares you. With each step, you are shaping the person you become. The more you act like someone who embraces growth, the more natural it will feel. And before you know it, stepping outside your comfort zone won't be something you force yourself to do, it will be something you can't imagine not doing. Chapter 11. A daily practice for breaking the comfort zone. Growth isn't something you do once and forget about. It's a daily practice. The people who consistently push their limits don't rely on motivation or wait for the perfect moment. They build habits that keep them growing no matter what. The key to long-term success is making discomfort a normal part of your routine. When stepping outside your comfort zone becomes a habit, you stop overthinking and start acting automatically. Most people treat growth as an event. They push themselves when they feel inspired, but as soon as life gets busy or challenges arise, they slip back into old patterns. This is why so many people make progress for a short time but never sustain it. The secret is to make growth a daily, intentional practice. Small actions, taken consistently, create massive transformation over time. It's not about occasional big leaps, it's about small, daily steps that add up. The first step to making growth a habit is to set a daily challenge. Every day, do something that makes you slightly uncomfortable. It doesn't have to be extreme. It just has to push you beyond your usual routine. Maybe it's speaking up in a conversation, trying a new activity, or doing something you've been avoiding. The goal is not perfection, it's consistency. If you stretch yourself just a little bit every day, your comfort zone expands without you even realizing it. Another powerful habit is reflection. At the end of each day, ask yourself, did I push myself today? If the answer is no, don't beat yourself up. Just commit to taking action tomorrow. Growth is a process, and reflection helps you stay on track. The simple act of reviewing your progress builds awareness and keeps you accountable. The more you pay attention to your actions, the easier it becomes to make discomfort a normal part of life. Your environment also plays a huge role in your ability to maintain growth habits. If you surround yourself with people who challenge themselves, you'll naturally do the same. If you consume content that expands your thinking, your mindset will shift. But if you spend time in environments that reinforce safety and stagnation, you'll struggle to push yourself. The solution is to create an environment that supports your growth. This might mean joining a group of like-minded people, reading books that inspire you, or even changing your daily routine to expose yourself to new experiences. Momentum is another key factor. The hardest part of any challenge is getting started. Once you build momentum, taking action becomes easier. The best way to maintain momentum is to never let yourself go 2 days in a row without stepping outside your comfort zone. If you skip one day, that's fine. But never skip twice. The longer you go without pushing yourself, the harder it becomes to restart. Keep the habit alive, even with small actions. One of the best ways to stay consistent is to track your progress. It doesn't have to be complicated. A simple checklist or journal can help you see how often you're taking action. When you track something, you're more likely to stick with it. Even if your progress feels slow, seeing small wins build up over time keeps you motivated. Right now, commit to a daily discomfort challenge. Choose one small action that pushes you beyond what's familiar. It doesn't have to be dramatic, it just has to be intentional. Speak up. Try something new. Take a small risk. Every day, challenge yourself in some way. When you make this a habit, growth becomes automatic, and once that happens, nothing will be able to hold you back. Chapter 12. The challenge, your final step. Everything you've read in this book leads to one final challenge action. You now understand why the comfort zone is a trap. You know that fear is a signal for growth, that small steps create big change, and that failure is just feedback. But none of this matters unless you take action. Knowledge without action is wasted potential. The only way to truly break your comfort zone is to step beyond it, right now. Most people finish a book feeling inspired but then go back to their old habits. They tell themselves they'll start tomorrow, next week, or when they feel more ready. But growth doesn't happen someday, it happens today. If you wait for the perfect moment, you'll wait forever. The perfect moment is a myth. The only thing that matters is what you do right now. So here's the challenge: do something uncomfortable today. Not tomorrow, not later. Today. It doesn't have to be a giant leap. It just has to be something that pushes you beyond your usual routine. Send the message you've been avoiding. Speak up when you'd normally stay silent. Say yes to an opportunity that scares you. Whatever it is, take action before the day ends. No excuses, no delays, just action. It will feel uncomfortable. That's the point. Growth always starts with discomfort. Your mind will try to talk you out of it. It will come up with reasons to wait, to postpone, to play it safe. Recognize those thoughts for what they are, fear's last attempt to keep you where you are. But you are no longer the person who listens to fear. You are someone who acts despite it. You don't need to feel ready. You just need to move. Every step you take weakens the grip of fear. Each small action builds confidence. The first step is always the hardest, but once you take it, momentum takes over. That's how change happens, not through massive leaps, but through consistent, intentional action. This challenge isn't just for today, it's for every day. Growth is not a one-time event, it's a practice, a mindset, a way of living. Every day you will have a choice, to stay where you are or to take a step forward. If you commit to pushing your boundaries daily, you will transform in ways you never thought possible. Look at who you were before you started this book. Look at the fears, doubts, and limitations that held you back. Now, look at who you are becoming. You are someone who embraces discomfort, someone who refuses to let fear dictate their choices, someone who is committed to growth. That identity shift is more powerful than any strategy or technique. It changes everything. Now, there is only one thing left to do: act. Right now, choose one step outside your comfort zone. Make it real. No more waiting, no more thinking, no more excuses, just action. Because the moment you take that step, you break free. And once you break free, there is no limit to what you can become. Take care and be well.